Hello everyone, we are back at the painting table for another 3D print and paint review. So now in a previous video I printed up and painted Slythe, the leader of the evil mutants from Thundercats, and now it's time to give him a friend. So I've got here Monkian, obviously done by the same artist who sculpted the last one, and again it's one that is in two pieces. So it just literally prints as these two pieces. I've hollowed it out and printed it. I think I did 2.2mm thickness, so it's still got a decent sort of strength to it. So I've cleaned him all up, I've sanded him down, and he is now ready to be sprayed. So I'm going to do it obviously in the same style as I did Slythe. So I'm going to start with the base. I'm going to spray that in Chaos Black, probably 2 coats of that. And I'm going to cover the actual head sculpt of Monkian in a light grey primer. After that primer is on, this is what you're left with. So you can see the details a little bit better now. So what I'm going to start with is the base, and like I did with the Slythe model, I'm just going to go around with some black just to pick out any parts that the primer didn't pick up. And then I'm going to go over the lettering with a red, in this case Mephiston red. So there we are with the red paint applied. So next what I'm going to do is spray this with a clear coat of varnish, and I'm going to go with satin. Then after that's dried, I've already cut out a piece of felt and I've marked out which direction is the front, and I'll peel off the backing and that will slide into place over the bottom there. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Completed base with the felt bottom and the varnish over the top. It gives it a nice satin reflective look. Okay, onto the main model. So starting with the model, I'm going to use some more cast bone, which is effectively a very light sand colour, and just going to start blocking in all the fur running around the outside. So after 2 thin coats, that's what you're left with. Now I'm going to brighten that up a little bit with some Screaming Skull, and what I'm going to do is a light dry brush over all the sort of the raised parts, just to give it a bit more detail. So after the dry brush, this is where we're left with. I think that worked quite well. It brightened up some of the areas, added a bit more interest, and that's what I think we want on this type of thing, because it was quite a lot of flat areas. So I think, yeah, that's worked rather well. Okay, on to the next bit. So to do his ears and the top part of his face, I have mixed up a colour. I've mixed up some white, Corax white, and some Steel Legion drab, which effectively just gives me a lighter sort of pale brown. And that should be about the right colour, I think, for what I need. Next I'm going to use some Rakarth flesh just to do the last part of his skin here. Next I'm going to take some burgundy red, in this case I'm using corn red, and just going to go in over the parts of the helmet. Then taking some gunmetal silver, just the rest of the metal details on the helmet. And now I've just mixed up some wire flesh and some goblin green to make a slightly yellowy green, and I'm just going to apply it on this sort of tassel he has here. Next I'm just going to use some Corax white and just block in the teeth and also the eyes. And then a steady hand is needed next to start putting in the orange of the irises. And then finally, an even more delicate hand is needed, just to put in some black in these very small irises. Pupils, I should say. So with that done, that is all the base colours down on the front of the face. So what I'm going to do now is to try and retain that cartoony look that I want. I'm going to thin down some black paint, and I'm going to do some actual black lines in between the main parts of the model to bring out those details around the mouth and the nose, that type of thing. And that will hopefully, as I did with a previous one I did when I made Slithe, it'll make it look much more like the cartoon, which is what I'm going for. So I'm kind of going for bold, plain colours with a sort of a black outline around them. So I'm going to take some time to do that now, and we'll come back. So after applying those black lines, this is kind of what I was left with. Took a little while. I kind of put in the lines a little bit too thick initially, but then just cut it back with those other colours to define them a little bit. And I think it's okay. It's pretty much how I want it. Again, you can go quite heavy on this. You know, I could have put in lines in between every single colour, but I don't think that was really the look I wanted to go for. I just kind of wanted to break up the face really and just pick out those main points of interest. Another thing that I've done, which I didn't show, is I just went back and I mixed a bit of that original silver that I did on the helmet with a touch of black, and then repainted that horn just to darken it down. Because looking at the reference pictures, that was kind of how it was in the cartoon. It was a slightly darkened colour. So what I'm going to do now is just do a slight bit of edge highlighting on that sort of green tassel he has. And I'm just going to use, so this was the lighter of the two greens that I used to mix up that initial colour. So I'm just going to now go in and just do a careful sort of edge highlight around the outside. And here it is after the highlighting. I also just put a couple of streaks down diagonal across just to bring it out a little bit more. Okay, I think the next thing I'm going to do is do an edge highlight now around the top of the metal parts of the helmet. I'm using some Runefang steel, which is a very light, much more, even more metallic silver than what I've got down already. And it's just a case of, again, going around the edge of the model and picking that out. And that's what it looks like after that highlighting has been applied around the helmet. I'd say it's subtle, but I think it gives a little bit of something extra. Okay, so everything on the face of it I think is now completely finished. I don't think I'm going to add in any more details. So it's just a case of going around the model, making sure I haven't made any mistakes, touching up any paint that needs to. For example, there's a little bit there that needs to touching up. Then what I'm going to do, turn the model around, I'm just going to paint the whole of it black. All obviously get a couple of coats of black on it, make sure that I don't go over the parts of the model that will show through the other side, and then I think we're calling it done. So then what I'm going to do is spray the whole thing with varnish. I'm going to go with a matte varnish, and hopefully we should be at a position where we can call this done. Okay, so I'll check back in a second after I painted that black and got it all varnished. Okay, so it's been about 24 hours, so that varnish should be nice and dry by now. And this is the final result. So as I say, I covered the back with black, neatened that all up. And this is the final look. So if we bring in the base, now it should just clip in. There we go. Perfect. And here we are, the finished result. Yeah, so I think the more glossy varnish I've used on the base, I think works quite well. Gives a little bit of differentiation. Even though I've used a matte varnish, you still get a little bit of reflection. it's never 100% matte, if I'm honest. But yeah, no, quite pleased with that. Okay, what I'm going to do is bring him to a slightly better lit area, and I'll compare him with the one that I previously made. And here he is alongside Slithe, which I made in a previous video, and I think they're looking really good together. So that's 2 of the gang down, and I've got 2 more to go, with Vultureman and Jackalman left. So that's going to be fun to add them to the collection. And yeah, I think they're looking pretty good. So I'll just move him back out of the way. Final thoughts on the model. Really nice model, nice and simple to paint. You can go with a nice, fairly simple paint scheme like I have, and it shouldn't take you much time at all. This model is actually available for download for free as of time of writing. I'll put the link in the description, and yeah, you go check out the artist's work. They got tons of other models that have done. They're all reasonably, really, well priced. So yeah, I recommend you take a look at their work, and yeah, let me know if you download one for yourself. Alright everyone, take care, I'll see you in the next video.